Welcome to Pharmaceutical Executives Podcast, How False Starts Continue to Undermine Omnichannel Efforts. This podcast is brought to you by Axtria Incorporated, global provider of cloud software and data analytics for life sciences companies. To find out more, please go to www.axtria.com. And now, here's your host for this podcast, the contributing editor for Pharmaceutical Executive, Cindy Dubin.
Hello, everyone. This is Cindy Dubin, contributing editor for Pharmaceutical Executive, and I'm here with Jesse Chadha, President and CEO of Axtria. Thanks for being here today, Jesse.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
To get started, can you tell us what you think is the current state of omnichannel within the life sciences industry?
Absolutely, Cindy. So in the omnichannel has created a lot of excitement in the life sciences industry, and this has actually accelerated since the beginning of 2020 because of the COVID pandemic. I would characterize the omnichannel thinking and operations in the life sciences industry at the beginning of that journey, and I think it's going to be evolution over the next couple of years.
So I know that there seems to be a lot of emphasis on AI and NBA solutions. Do you think that's a step in the right direction?
So the short answer is no. I think this is, there's no doubt that artificial intelligence and suggestions and next best actions are going to be a very important part of the omnichannel. However, I think we are putting the cart in front of the horse here. The foundations for how organization design happens, the foundation of how the data becomes pervasive, and the customer 360 is put in place. Having the infrastructure to actually facilitate different decision making and different stakeholder are included in the solutions. None of those things have been actually thought through clearly, and using AI and the next best action is one way of actually delivering omnichannel, and putting that too much focus on that in the beginning and right now is actually putting the whole initiative in jeopardy.
So based on that, do you see then the role of sales and marketing changing, and what needs to change for successful omnichannel operations?
So the roles of sales and marketing have always been changing in the life sciences industry. So if you go back 10 years, 20 years, and they will continue to change. How the omnichannel thinking is changing that is that in the long run, there is going to be a much tighter alignment of sales and marketing, and perhaps you could say that there could be one omnichannel team or omnichannel engagement. However, we have to recognize that at this stage, where the industry is, where most of the life sciences companies are, their organization design currently has sales and marketing as separate at separate groups and separate entities, and there has to be a closer link of information between sales and marketing to begin with, and this is where the software and the IT can play a role. But in the long run, it will continue to change, and they will become more of one operations, but we are not there yet.
And how do you start your omni-channel journey?
So, Cindy, the best way to actually start about the omnichannel journey is to really think through, first, put your vision in place, second, put your strategy in place, third, put your plan in place, and then you put your execution in place. So how we have seen some of the customers start their journey is that they first define where they want to be 2 to 3 years from now, which is the visioning aspect of it. Then they put the strategy in place. A very important part of strategy is benchmarking their current organization, their current maturity, their current assets, and identifying the gaps. And that's what creates the plan to that they need to build upon. Then they need to do the allocation of resources, find the right partners to pick the right technology stack, and then actually go towards the execution. A very important part of execution is going to be the alignment of the visioning with senior executive sponsorship, and then actually putting a cross-functional team together from IT, from business, from sales, from marketing, from US, from global, a multi-stakeholder team that actually is part of the execution team.
So what does that mean for the role of a sales representative going forward?
So we believe that the sales reps are a very, very important and integral part of life sciences companies managing their relationship with stakeholders, and primarily the healthcare providers, the HCPs, the nurses, the staff, and so on. And we don't see that role going away because they help in actually delivering the medical information, but also managing the expectation and the relationship with the stakeholders. What we see the role of sales reps is to actually for them to become more specialized. And in one way of thinking about this thing is the sales reps becoming the super reps. So what we will see the sales reps of the future are going to be, they will have they will be experts in the therapeutic areas that they cover, but also they will be augmented with a lot of information and software for them to be effective in managing their relationships with their customers.
So you talk about senior level folks. What role are chief digital officers playing at the global scale?
So I'm glad you asked that question, Cindy, because there is an emergence of chief digital officers across the board at large global life sciences companies. Our customers have recognized the need of digital transformation. And a digital transformation means different things to different people. Our view is the very important part of the digital transformation is what we call a data-driven digital transformation. And the role that the CDOs are playing is actually defining the vision, the strategy, and putting the plans in place. And looking at the platforms that need to be put in place that will work for their global markets. And then at the same time, putting the benchmarks in place so that they can actually see the impact of this digital transformation on their business operations.
I know that you mentioned at the beginning of our conversation the pandemic, and I'm wondering how you think the pandemic has contributed to building omnichannel practice. And just building off of that, would you say that these are knee-jerk reactions or well-thought long-term solutions?
So we were thrust into a COVID pandemic in March of 2020. And that's when suddenly by the end of March, most of the sales reps would not have access to the physicians. Actually, a lot of physician practices had shut down and they were not even seeing the patients. Very quickly, the interactions of how physicians were treating the patients went digital, online through telepresence and other digital medium. And in the same vein, the life sciences companies were forced to rethink their strategy as to how to service their customers. So this was obviously completely unplanned, and with this sudden disruption in the marketplace is what exposed the so-called flaws in various companies' strategies. Some companies just basically went out and actually turned on the let's say something like Viva Engage, where the reps could actually talk to physicians through Zoom channels and things like that. But what we realized is that there was no real clear strategy. There was no foundation of understanding customers' preferences, or there was no data to track their performance or key KPIs. There was no way of actually measuring the impact, whether that was useful. There was no way of actually understanding what were the needs of the physicians. If you look at it, the physicians really, their first and the foremost priority was the safety of themselves and their staff, and also treating the patients. Their first priority was not talking to sales reps from the life sciences industry. So all that kind of changed very, very suddenly, and that's what really kind of exposed that from an omnichannel practice perspective, we have long ways to go.
So hearing everything that you've just described about what's going on in the industry, how does Axtria differentiate in its omnichannel offering?
So the way we have thought about this thing is that, we have taken a more holistic view. So, we have really used design thinking and approaching our solutions. And we believe where the industry is, and, we have a really good understanding of, the therapeutic areas and how the customers make decisions in this industry. We believe that this is going to be a combination of software products as well as expertise delivered by consultants and delivering managed services. You have to really think about this thing from in a holistic manner, from data to insights to planning and then execution or orchestration. And in my earlier comment about next best action actually fits in with the orchestration part of it. We have to really think about this as an end-to-end automation, because there are going to be multiple stakeholders who are looking for transparency, visibility. There has to be a governance in place, and we all know that artificial intelligence is going to play a critical role in every aspect of this solution, right from data ingestion, integration to generating insights, doing forecasting, facilitating automatic decision making. And what we have been building is enterprise level SaaS platform that is true, which will work with the global markets, but actually facilitate customers' execution of their strategy on omnichannel.
Well, thank you for this informative overview, Jesse. We truly appreciate you being here today.
No, thank you very much. Thanks for having this very engaging conversation, and I wish you good luck.
Thank you. This has been Cindy Dubin, contributing editor for Pharmaceutical Executive. Thanks to all for listening.
You've been listening to Pharmaceutical Executives Podcast, How False Starts Continue to Undermine Omnichannel Efforts. This podcast is brought to you by Axtria Incorporated, global provider of cloud software and data analytics for life sciences companies. To find out more, please go to www.axtria.com.